Okay, so let's start to dive into the roles. The first of these roles is the network architect. They can be referred to as a network designer and even by some companies as network engineers. So it does get confusing. But they are responsible for the design of new networks and the enhancement and optimization of existing networks. Broadly speaking, they'll be able to design an infrastructure or network that can allow a business to achieve its objectives through IT. They will be able to visualize those technologies, hardware and software needed for the solution. They'll understand which elements are going to be on-site and which elements might need to be virtualized or given over to third-party outsourced vendors in order to create the perfect networking infrastructure. They'll be able to design a network that takes into account the traffic bandwidth needed for that particular user base, with a strong focus on security and yet with an eye on the future so that the network can accommodate business growth. So how do they do all this? Well, your network architect will have excellent knowledge of networking technologies, of course, but they will also understand how to marry those to the business needs. This is critical in good design. Generally, the first thing they would do is to monitor and observe the existing network for quite a long period of time so that they can become familiar with the day-to-day usage of the system and where the current system is creaking. They will familiarize themselves with the traffic flow and times and situations when bottlenecks occurred in data flow. They will understand the server specs, the data storage environment, and also the end user hardware. They will become very well versed when it comes to the applications within the organization, be it a centralized database, ERP systems, or a CRM system that is most resource hungry in that situation. They'll look at which applications make most use of the network for data transmission. They'll understand end user profiles so as to assess which departments and profiles have the greatest need for prioritized data delivery. This activity of observation will also make your network architect aware of the blind spots and vulnerabilities with regards to security in the network. With all of this under their belt, they'll be able to start thinking about the type of transmission mediums needed, i.e. copper or fiber. They'll also think about the physical layout of the new network. This is known as the topology, and all the devices that will be needed, such as switches, routers, hubs, modems, transceivers, and bridges. And then they can start on the work of modeling the new network. Your network architect will be very proficient in the art of network modeling. Now, this is how they understand where a business needs to be in the future in terms of network design. They'll need to understand how to upgrade an existing network so it's able to handle that vision of the future, and network modeling allows them to do that. They will project whatever's needed into the design and build a new network with all the necessary devices, protocols and transmission mediums necessary. And this is what a network model shows. Here, budgeting will also come into play. The network model will also show logical flow of data and the connectivity between nodes. Now, they might use a standard case tool software such as Visio or Aris to create something that looks like this. However, of course, it could be a bit more complex and it will look like this. Once they've got a conceptual network model like this, they may even need to superimpose that onto a physical floor plan, which looks like this. Thereafter, they will start to think about the devices and the protocols which we spoke about earlier, and they'll start configuring all the nodes in that network, possibly assigning IP addresses to all those devices. They will also create domains and subdomains within the network to separate it all into segments to ease data flow. Firewalls and security software will also start to be implemented here. Finally, there is documentation. So a network architect will need to create a clear set of documentations as to how this new network was designed and include the detailed network models in there. This is so that future maintenance people or administrators can either carry out routine maintenance or, in the event of a disaster, be able to go straight to the suspected points of failure. That was the conceptual network model. And then the work of actually building the network begins. Now, an architect will either get involved in the construction of the network, or in any substantial project, they'll start to oversee a group of network engineers who will work underneath them. And when this happens and the network construction is completed, they will get involved in thoroughly testing and then optimizing the network and putting it through its paces in terms of making sure it's ready for the end user. Let's now move on to the next section and understand a bit more about the skills and qualifications needed by both a network architect and a network engineer.